Welcome to the final episode of our series, Understanding Tribal Treaties and Reserve Rights, the power of federal tribal respect and collaboration. In this episode, we delve into a critical aspect, building respect and collaboration when working with tribal nations.
In this episode, we will hear directly from tribal leaders as they discuss working with the federal government. We are grateful to these tribal leaders for sharing their own and their tribe's experiences and views so that you, as federal employees, are better able to understand tribal perspectives when working on matters that intersect with tribal interests. Please note that these tribal leaders joined us as representatives of their sovereign nations and are not providing the views or opinions of the federal government. By the end of this episode, you will be able to acknowledge the significance of cultural respect and collaboration when interacting with tribal nations, with the aim of fostering effective and mutually beneficial relationships.
We're political entities. We're not race-based. So that's something that often hard for a federal government and federal government employees to fully understand that relationship is important. So I spend a lot of energy understanding if legislation or policy or regulations are being established, that we want to be on the front end of that conversation so that it reflects the true obligation and relationship of tribes and is more effective to help us accomplish our goals.
And if COVID taught us anything, it is that when tribes are given the resources necessary, we do the job better because we know what we need to do on behalf of our people. And despite it being such a tragedy and a loss in Indian country, we had a lot of lessons that we learned, and we're hoping that we can expand the self-governance model into beyond the Department of the Interior, BIA, and the Indian Health Services, right into Health and Human Services and across their portfolio, as well as every other agency. Because when you think about the amount of money and the redundancy that the United States is allocating for purpose areas, they're small pots of money, but if you combine them all, it might be able to make a difference to the tribes. But until or unless they step away from the antiquated system and that broken system that they've predicated everything on, we're still going to wind up by competing against ourselves. The tribes that need the assistance the most generally don't get it because they don't have the resources. So we need to change that relationship, change the way we do business, and think forward-thinking towards how that relationship will be with our children and our grandchildren. Because I'm third generation and dealing in a leadership space for my tribe and my community, and I don't want my daughter or my grandchildren to be having the same discussion that I'm having that my mother had when she would be in front of Congress or when she was speaking with Bureau of Indian Affairs.
I think that one of the really most important things about working with tribes is understanding that we have high turnover. We have extremely high turnover. It is challenging working for tribes in small communities where people are often having to move to educate their children, where people are having to move for health or to take care of an elder in another community. And so there's high turnover, and that presents challenges on getting anything done. I also think that there are challenges with regard to understanding just exactly what the project is or how to best meet the project. Oftentimes, writing grants can be challenging for tribes. You hear it all the time, there is so much money, don't leave the money on the table. However, many tribes don't have the capacity to write those grants. And recently, when we were working on a grant, I needed help and I reached out and I was told that type of consultation wasn't available. And I think to myself, what would happen if I didn't have the resources that I had? So I think that just understanding that sometimes the resources need to provide additional information, not just here's a NOFO, either write it or don't write it. There's a lot of opportunity for financial assistance on the table, but those grants are not going to be applied to to the tribes if the tribes can't write the grants or if they don't have the ability or the capacity with the employees or the talent to do so. And it's just a matter of trying to keep our heads above water most of the time. Many people that work at the council are, carrying multiple jobs and working multiple hours, and it makes it extremely challenging.
I just think that it's important for federal employees to know that they have a trust responsibility as being members of this federal family to Indian tribes. And it's a core part of the United States identity and culture. And it's important for us to do what we're intended to do in our jobs, is incorporate those values into the way we proceed and how we do our work. I would just say that the trust responsibility is very unique within the federal government, in that it has a legal basis, and it's got a political basis, it's got a cultural basis, and we believe even a ceremonial and spiritual basis that needs to be honored, because it's just as important as the other institutions and is part of basic institutions of the country. So it's a very important, fundamental part of being an American is honoring the tribes, their culture, their treaties, and their history.
I think understanding the concept of nation to nation, and I think really having an open mind and an open heart and having the spirit of a beginner. Because if you don't know something, that's okay. It's better to ask rather than just not taking the time to learn something or just presuming that whatever you know is good enough. To feel really comfortable asking questions and to be okay not knowing something. I think that is a sign of respect when you ask.
I think the federal employees are assigned throughout the United States. Some may be assigned in their tribal area. They need to come to visit tribes and walk a mile in our shoes to see, what expertise we have. And maybe we're doing things okay without them trying to guide us. Maybe they can learn from us because, and I'll give you an example in the state of Oklahoma. Most of the development in the state of Oklahoma, we have 39 federal recognized tribes there. If you drive around Oklahoma, it is the tribes that are building houses. It's the tribes that are building roads. It's the tribes that are doing economic development. Partnerships is a big deal for me. When I was in office, we partnered with the county commissioner. We partnered with the local law enforcement. We gave them surplus equipment. County commissioners, we would build roads together. We provide the funds, you provide the equipment. Those type of partnerships that I think other tribes that we've learned from, or they've learned from us, are very helpful in moving forward, because we're all in this together. We're all trying to better the lives of our youth. And if the counties and the state and federal government would all work together in partnerships and learn how to compromise, we would have a better place to live.
I believe that with money, resources, the tribes have become a major player in a lot of the departments in the federal government. And sometimes if tribes don't have those resources, federal employees and congressional people don't listen or deal with the tribes in a positive manner. And I wish that federal employees would learn that no matter who you are, what color you are, how much money you have, that they should deal with you in equal manners.
So I think one of the things that federal employees should know about tribes is that indigenous people are contemporary people, where we are 21st century Americans, just like everybody else. And we have a history that's unique. We have a culture that's unique, but we exist within the context of American society, just like everybody else. We have influences that impact the way that we think, the way we make our decisions as well, that could be things like media, just like the other things that Western society has. But we still have that unique culture and that unique identity. And to understand that Native people are walking out that identity within the context of being 21st century Americans. And so to not be surprised that that's something that we're working out, that we're walking out, and that it's important to us to maintain that history of who we are as Indigenous people. I know in a lot of consultations that I've been a part of, we traditionally start our meetings off with a prayer, an invocation. And I know that's foreign to a lot of federal employees, but that's something that goes back to who we are as, and the history and the culture of how we operate. But even when you see the facilities that we're in, when you see the way that we live and that we exist and the way we make our decisions, we do that as contemporary 21st century people.
If you're working with a tribe, reach out to them, do your homework, find out, learn about the culture, and before you go to meet with a tribe, find out and ask. Don't be afraid to ask. There's nothing wrong with asking, what's the proper way for me to address your leadership? What's the proper way to address your traditional people? Is there a certain attire I should wear? Is it respectful or disrespectful to wear certain things? Because you want to be mindful of the tribe's cultural ways and taboo. So not all tribes will share everything, but what they want you to know, they will definitely share. What they don't want you to do, you definitely want to know what that is, to not be disrespectful. And keep in mind that out of the 574 tribes, none of them are exactly the same. We have patriarchies and matriarchies. We have patrilineal tribes and matrilineal tribes. Some have clans, some have other forms of grouping within their tribe. So being aware of that and how the tribes are formed. The other thing is knowing that there's not just one type of government. Learn about your tribe's form of government. Do they have a governor? Do they have a chief? Do they have a chairman? Is there a council? And that's probably one of the most important things, because then you'll understand who your authority is, who's authorized to speak on behalf of the tribe.
I cannot speak for all Alaska Natives, but I do know that some Alaska Natives are not comfortable being called Eskimo. And that is not a term that is acceptable. If you're addressing Inupiat people or Kupik or Yupik, or to address them as such. And I know that some Alaska Native people are not comfortable being called Indian. We are not Indian people. We did not come from India. And so when I address myself or my tribe, I say Alaska Native people. And I think that it's important. Again, it's going to be individual to find out who you're addressing and how they're comfortable being addressed.
No, again, I think, especially dealing with elders, that, if you're invited into an elder's home, typically they're always going to ask you, do you want something to drink? Do you want something to eat? And you want to try to accommodate. You have to gain that immediate trust.
Something else is just for, as an individual, is be respectful and realize that when you're working with Native people, the communication styles are definitely different than mainstream America. For example, when it comes to somebody speaking, a lot of people will speak slow and they're thinking out what they're saying because they want to be sure of what they're going to say. So sometimes when somebody pauses in silence, in mainstream America, you think they're done talking. But in Indian country, it's different. Usually they're pausing because they're thinking about what they want to say next. And so allow them that time to think and don't cut them off.
Basically on tribes, things are sensitive. You hear people talk about costumes. That's not correct. It's regalia. Those things are meant. Those are cultural identity. Family people make those. You don't buy them at Walmart. Those things you have to be sensitive to. You have to be sensitive to sacred sites. When you go somewhere, you ask an elder, what do I need to do here? What, before I even come to meet with you, what is a correct way of greeting, and try to at least get a simple bit of what the relationship will be, because that will make your life a lot easier. Because if you come over and you overpower and you talk over and interrupt, those things are not happening in our culture. If an elder is speaking, you let them speak, and you just sit down. But if you come in doing that, you're going to get shut out. So I would say do a little research, not days, 20 minutes. You can maybe call their cultural department and ask them, say, hey, I'm coming to you and talk to you. Is this the right person to talk to? Is there something I need to know? Like, they could have had a death or a ceremony going on right now, and you're calling and just bugging, but little do you know. So maybe you call back next week, or you just make those pre-empt calls to get going, to get started, have a relationship, build that, know who you're dealing with, because not all the tribes are the same.
So I've always found it impressive when somebody comes to see us and they've looked at our website and they know all these facts and things about us. It's like, okay, they did their homework.
I find when I am talking to federal employees about our tribe that they are not aware of the challenges it is to, one, get there, or the challenge of getting supplies there, much less the lack of the ability to have any sort of communication. I think that the remoteness of many tribes in Alaska, and I'm sure it's the case in the lower 48 too. I know that there are many tribes that are remote, but the challenges that we face are we have one bar of cell service in our community, and we have electricity just because there's a generator in the community, and we have a runway that can only accommodate a Cessna. And so a lot of these logistics are challenging for people to live there, let alone work. There is no economy. There is no school. And so in order for people to live there, we have to think outside of the box.
How treaties can be revived and utilized, not just for one tribe, but all of us tribes need to get back and say, what are the foundations of our treaties? What do they actually do for us? And how can we share those with each other? That'll only strengthen who we are.
And as the years have gone by and the relationship with the United States has changed, we have to re-envision what that relationship is. We should not be competing against each other for meager grant dollars. As I said, we paid it forward with our lands, the lives of our ancestors, and our natural resources.
So sometimes people think, well, the Indians get all these special privileges and the United States gives them things out of the kindness of their hearts when they're sitting on tribal land, when everyone in this country is sitting on some tribe's land. So I think that it's a contractual agreement. We gave up something in exchange for something, and a lot of those things we still have not yet received.
And we hope that the United States recognizes that its obligation is also bound in the soil of this United States. The things that we treated for, the things that we promised, those were not cessions by defeated peoples. Those were guarantees between two governments, and those obligations are between the United States and its federally recognized tribes.
I wish the federal employees could actually look at the way the tribes evolved, the hardships from food to transportation to health. We were guaranteed a lot of things under treaties, which still aren't proven. I believe that the federal employees maybe should put themselves in our positions in the past, that we didn't ask for this. It was thrusted upon us. So maybe if they understood that we rose from dirt to buildings to where we are at today, because we basically hunted and gathered and lived and went miles and miles in a day under treacherous weather conditions, hot, cold, rain. So I wish they would understand that the tribes weren't privileged in any way, fashion, or form, nor the people, because we sustained a lot of difficulties and challenges that we got through. So I just believe that I wish they could come to some of the reservations and see the living conditions that still exist today that aren't very, very good at all. But like I said, we're growing. We hope that we get more people educated to take us out of those difficult, challenging positions. So I just wish they would understand what we went through, because I don't think a lot of them do. A lot of them, I believe some employees are there for themselves and are doing the 8 hours a day and go home without actually knowing who they're supposed to affect and why they're supposed to affect them. So I just wish there was more compassion within the federal employees than just an 8-to-5 job.
You can talk about best practices, and there's any number of ways to meaningfully engage, but being proactive, doing better than what is the minimum requirements are, taking those to heart, not just checking a box on a NEPA checklist or on a policy guideline sheet. Do better. As Americans, there's a debt America owes to tribes. Here's a chance to make good. You work for the United States government, meaningful engage these consultation processes. Do right by your own moral code, do right by the law, and then do right by tribes and do right by the United States. Be part of expressing, through your work, the best of the United States, the best of America. Here's a chance to do that.
As we wrap up this series, let's reflect on our key takeaway. Building respect and collaboration isn't a one-time effort. It's an ongoing commitment. The takeaway for you, our participants, is to carry forward this understanding, implement it in your daily work, and contribute to the larger goal of strengthening relationships with tribal nations. It's also important to remember and recognize that tribes are sovereigns with their own protocols, systems of government, and cultures, and employees should try to honor those as part of the government-to-government relationship. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey through the world of tribal treaties and reserved rights. Remember, every action you take, every decision you make, contributes to the path of respect and collaboration. Let's continue building bridges, fostering understanding, and working together toward a future of mutual respect and shared prosperity.